Okay, the first thing we're going to have to do is create a bootable USB stick. We're going to do that using a Windows machine, first of all, but with a bootable disk, it tells you you'll be able to install or upgrade Ubuntu, test it out without touching your PC configuration. It's important. Boot into a Ubuntu on a borrowed machine or an internet cafe. Well, that's interesting. Yeah. Use tools installed. Okay, so requirements: 2 gigabytes or larger. I'm going to recommend a lot larger than that. It mentions you need RUFUS, a free and open source USB stick writing tool, and you need an Ubuntu ISO file. Okay, so as far as that goes, we have to first get the ISO file. Now there's Ubuntu desktop, server, cloud. There's lots of other flavors of Ubuntu, and I should point out there are completely different flavors of Linux. You don't need to use Ubuntu. I'm going to use Ubuntu, but you should use whatever you want to, the latest version of it. So Ubuntu 16.04.4 may not be the latest version, so you download whichever version is the latest. And it'll download as an ISO file. Okay, and you save that on your disk. Then you got to download RUFUS. Just rufus.exe, the file there. You download that. So I have, in the end, 2 files, the rufus.exe and the Ubuntu ISO file. Now I'm going to run rufus.exe, but before doing that, I just want to point out that there are some recommendations. Perhaps this using it in the ISO image, it mentions that as doing it that way. Here it happens to say you need 5 gigabytes of storage space. So different versions are going to give you different requirements. You should know what they are. Now, most USBs will boot automatically, but that all depends on the BIOS of the computer. So you may need to go into the BIOS and change that to set up the ability to boot from a USB. Now, there also will be updates in third-party software for Ubuntu or any other flavor. That's because there may be new programs, applications out there, and if you're set up to the internet, you can stay connected and get all those updates, and that's pretty good advice. Now, when it comes to installing Ubuntu, of course, we're installing it on a USB when we get around to doing that. So that's going to be, we're going to use our whole USB for that, presumably. So back to RUFUS. You run it, and you have to create a bootable disk using ISO image. That's one of the checkboxes you have to change. And you can change the file type, file system, and so on, all that kind of stuff. And you can run that. At that point, it says you hit start, and of course, it'll eventually go through and say it's ready and it's all done. That will give you a bootable version of Ubuntu on a USB, but that doesn't mean you're completed with the installation.